So the reason why I got involved into podcasting initially was just this is a great medium, right? It is easy to get into. It's one of those things that it doesn't matter what kind of message you have, it's audio, so it's very forgiving. And just the easy to, the kind of like the medium just is so forgiving, but at the same time, it does not ask a lot of the listener, right? You can be multitasking. And for your community, you could be listening to a podcast and doing other things. And so can anyone, right? So it's not demanding. And so I launched the podcast space because there were so many business owners who had great ideas, but they felt very overwhelmed with the strategy side. How can I use a podcast to grow my business? How do I educate my community? And whereas before I was just the producer putting together the content, today I help brands and businesses strategize on what works for them. What is the idea? What is the topic that's going to help them stand out in their community, become thought leaders, and really engage the community that they want to be a part of in a way that makes them stand out more, help grow their business, grow their influence. And it's not hard, but you have to pick the right way.
Wow, that was a lot. And what's great is that if you are just joining us, you did catch us right at the beginning.
Yes, right
Now,
at the perfect spot.
because I didn't hit the live button until we were a couple minutes in. So you guys missed my entire intro. Isn't that awesome? That's right. You guys probably didn't want to hear. I'm serious on this too. You guys probably didn't want to hear from me anyways, right? You wanted to hear from Anna. You wanted to hear about podcasting. But I do want to welcome everyone, all of our live viewers. If you're watching in the replay, thank you guys for being here. We wouldn't be able to have this show without you. And I'm super, super appreciative. This is our 11th episode of season 1. Did you know that, Anna? Your lucky
Yeah,
number 11?
I am so excited to be here. I was like, yes, I am in. Also, am I the first show of 2021 or not really?
Not well, 2022.
Sorry,
You know what? That's
2022. What am I
okay. I know.
saying?
That's like still writing for us old school, like when we used to write checks. It was like it took months before we'd start writing the
Yes.
new year out. So 20. I hear you. Just flow right into 2022. Not the first, but the second. We did
Okay,
have
I'll
a
take
great
that.
show 2 weeks ago talking about taxes for realtors. So if you're
Oh,
watching and you haven't watched that and you want to know about taxes, because it's coming up and we're not great at, there's a video down below. I'll put it in the description box. Also, everything we share today, guys, as far as links and resources, they'll all be in the description box. If you're watching live and you don't have time and you won't want to go back because you don't want to miss anything, don't worry. You're going to get all of this stuff. We're going to talk about podcasting today. I want to just I don't know, should we just jump right into it, Anna? Trying to
yes.
catch up from where we were because we had such a nice intro and you shared some really great stuff at the beginning. As far as, your experience in multiple countries, and
Yeah.
getting started and experiencing the spoken word in Portugal,
Yes.
France, or did you say the UK?
In the UK. So I can recap for our
Yeah, let's
listeners and
just do that. We
viewers.
have
Yeah.
time.
So
Yeah, I'm
why
gonna
not?
check the chat. You guys, let us know you're here in the chat. Say hello. We want to know that you're here. We want to interact with you. Want to answer your questions, comments. Good deal.
Yeah. So we definitely, I mean, no one else speaks as much as me about how important it is about starting a podcast in a way that is authentic to you, in a way that it gets you excited, that brings value to your community, as well as elevates your brand online in a way that is kind of effortless and then matches your personality, right? So I think that for 2022, why not add podcasting to your roster of your goals or just something to try. And what you were saying, Jeff, earlier is just you accidentally didn't press the like button and we were just warming up over here having the best time. And I mean, it's just a constant learning curve. You can do this 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 10 times, 100 times, and you can still learn. You
Yeah,
probably want to
yeah,
add a checklist today.
it's failing forward and just
Yes.
not, I know it sounds cliche and, never giving up and so forth, but there is truth to that. And if you're passionate about something, if podcasting or doing a live show like this or creating video or any type of content, like if you're passionate about it and you just keep doing it, it doesn't matter what happens. If you forget to hit the live button or you forget to hit the record button or you mistakenly post something that wasn't perfectly edited, like it doesn't matter. You just keep doing it. And consistency obviously is a part of growing any type of business.
And
Um,
also let me add to that, and it humanizes your brand. Who hasn't messed up ever, right? So
right.
it makes you so relatable, and you can even out of this, you can create a post later in a few, months time, like the things that the biggest oopsies that I have done in 2022 and what I've learned from them. So anything can be turned into content, right? And can be repurposed.
That was a nugget right there. Cha-ching. That was the Jeff Ruby live nugget. Say that again, Anna.
Yeah, so anything that happens to you can be repurposed into a learning lesson that you can share with your audience. And just nothing is ever the end. Everything can be repurposed multiple times, can be given a new approach, and it just humanizes your brand. Messing up makes us humans, makes us imperfect, and that's how we connect. Nobody wants to hear from the Mr. Perfect, right? Everyone wants to hear from that one thing that they love, that made them cry, that made them laugh. Everything is connected to you as a person, and that's when being authentic really brings the best out of us and helps us connect with others.
Yes, that is so true, and that is really the essence of branding and marketing. There's a distinction between branding and marketing. Branding is to support your marketing, and so many, especially real estate agents, confuse the two and think branding, and marketing are the same thing, and it's really not. So let's jump into podcasting specifically for real estate agents. Um, I mean, do you own your own home?
I do.
So
I
you've been
do.
yeah, you've been through a real estate transaction. You have an
Yes.
idea of what real estate agents do and what they go through and coming up with some ideas and topics. I think that's what holds a lot of real estate agents back from creating content is really coming up with the ideas. So from the standpoint of a realtor who may be thinking about doing a podcast or is going to watch this and afterwards go, wow, I really should do a podcast, where should they start? Where would an agent start?
Yes. So I love that because I've actually, through the past, I would say 5 years, I have worked with a lot of real estate agents, some new, some that were more seasoned. And it's just funny that there's no idea that is the same. Your expertise makes you unique. Your life experiences will make your podcast unique in a way that no one else can copy. You may have the same topic, but you're going to approach it differently. And so that's the one thing that I want to start with. You're not going to reinvent the wheel. There's someone out there with the same idea. So don't feel discouraged by that. But the one thing that will make you really stand out is do something that makes you excited to talk about in the long run. Because podcasting is phenomenal for a long term strategy. Content is, you have your life cycles. So if you're just starting, you may be told you have to be on social media. So that is the short life cycle, right? 24 hours, 72 hours. And once you release that content, I mean, engagement kind of stalls in a way, right? And podcasting is something that it just takes a bit more time. So think about, okay, if you're launching a podcast today, it's going to take about 6 months at least to get to a point when you're like really consistently booking those numbers and you're having a community of listeners and you can get very, very comfortable. So getting an idea that you're excited about will do many things. One, keep you excited in the long run, but also do something that you have some sort of knowledge so that it makes it easier. So if you constantly have to research a ton, you're going to feel, unless that's your thing. If you love researching and that fills you up, go ahead. But if it's something that's overly complicated, you may burn out. And we're all about not burning out and working in a clever way. So think about the things that either your personal experience already backs up what you're going to say. So let's say you in your past or in your current situation, you are, I don't know, maybe working in a store that is related to animals, right? So let's say pets, and you want to transition into real estate full time. Having that knowledge is invaluable. So many real estate agents may not know as much as you do about pet care and how many details in owning a home, for instance, that kind of like relates to pet owners. So when you go out into a house and you notice that it has the fenced backyard, you may remember to mention that multiple times to someone who you're trying to sell a house, right? Your pet is going to be safe. Or, hey, I noticed that, for instance, this house is made out of concrete. So you don't have to worry about your animal scratching the floors. It's going to be durable. So think about those kind of unique things about you that either you're just super passionate or your background has a way to confirm these knowledge.
Yeah, that's great. Your true authentic self. And I know there are a lot of pet lovers. Do you have pets, Anna?
I don't, but my neighbor's cats love hanging out with us. They're
Yeah.
visiting us all the time.
So you
So
get the
they're
best
cats.
of both worlds. You don't have to feed them, you don't have to clean the litter box, but you get to hang out with them. It's like grandkids.
Yes,
But yeah,
definitely.
being your true authentic self, I talk about this all the time, is what really enables us to create the audience and bring in the audience of people that we want to share our messages with. And what better way as a new real estate agent to be working with people who share commonalities with you? Pets, for example, that was a great one. You could break that down into music, sports, religion, go so far as say politics if you want to go that direction. But what happens is you end up creating an audience again of people that know, like, and trust you, and you almost have that built-in immediate bond there. So that was a great example. So let's say you are that agent, you are coming from a pet store background, you love pets, you're getting into real estate, and you're watching this, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to start my podcast. Like, what would be the first thing to do? Is it
Yes.
content creation? Is it like a think tank? What would you do first?
So, normally, what I tell my clients that work on strategy with me is figuring out one, what is the thing that comes naturally to you, though you won't get bored, and try to write at least 30 episode ideas that come out of that one topic, right? And if you cannot talk about this one thing that you're going to podcast about for more than 30 episodes, you're in trouble. More than 10, you're going to be in trouble. And here's why. If you decide to do a podcast that is seasonal and you just release, let's say, 10 episodes, you're great. But it's a lot of effort to put into figuring out what kind of community you want to serve and then veer into a completely different direction. So be very intentional. Can I talk about this for more than 30 episodes? Yes, awesome, let's go. So that's normally what I advise people. First, do a brain dump. And once you are doing it, the cool thing is that you will start writing down ideas as you write the one idea. You'll start and you will like, oh my
Totally.
gosh, da boom boom boom. You just like you're just on idea number 40 and you're like, I still have more. So that's a great example of you getting in alignment with your idea and it works. So if you're like, I don't know really what to talk about, think about the things that people come naturally to you, right? People ask you all the time, and you're like, I love talking about this, but I didn't realize I was actually an expert on. So think about that. You're not going to be everybody's real estate agent. So think about how do you want to serve them in a way that is also exciting for you. If you're embarking on a new adventure, if you're just starting, you have that possibility. You have to think, okay, I can create a life for myself. What do I want it to look like? If I'm going to talk about this for a long time on social media, on a podcast, it has to make you super, I don't know, excited and kind of like just magnetic to other people,
Yeah. Oh my
right?
gosh, yeah. That's
So
what
so I was just going to say that's step number 1. You do not need to care about anything else but having a really good idea. Then you need to figure out how much time do you have. So are you super busy or are you the kind of person that actually has a ton of time? So that's when you're going to figure out, do I want to release weekly, bi-weekly? But I'm here still.
Well,
No.
that I just was trying to put this up on the
All
screen, and
right.
it kicked us off. Maybe it was
That's
saying that maybe it thought we were out of time.
Maybe. Well, that's the good thing about doing this with me. I've live streamed content for podcasters for a long time. I'm just whatever happens, I know I just have to wait.
That's why it's live. We roll with it. Who do
Yes.
we have? Do we have anybody in the chat? I don't see anybody in the chat. Where are you
No.
guys? Anybody
I'm
chatting in? Nobody's living in?
I don't think so. I think that maybe that's gonna come after we end the live probably, and then we'll hop on that comment section and just go ahead and answer those questions.
Exactly. All
All
right,
right.
good stuff. Okay, so you were talking about number 2 is
Yes.
really talking about how much time do you have? I mean,
Yes.
that is just perfect. Roll with it.
Yes. So, how much time do you have? Make it work for you. And the other thing that you can do if you do not have a lot of time is figuring out, for instance, batching. Batching is just creating a lot of content in just one afternoon, one day, one week, and then you don't need to worry about it anymore, right? And you can do that, or you can just adjust and say, I do not have the mental ability to do a lot of content in one sitting, so I'm just going to go with every week, just as it comes. The key, that something that you said, Jeff, earlier, was consistency. Once
Yeah.
you set expectations with your audience, stick to it, because it's kind of like nobody likes someone who over promises and under delivers, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's it's we can go back to consistency and doing that. I started this show and I do it every Wednesday. It's every Wednesday at noon. You guys should tune in. It's right here on the channel. We stream across multiple platforms. And there's been a few times where I haven't had somebody to come on or somebody got sick. Like it just happens. Like they say, the show must go on. So you come up with something creative. There's been a couple where I just answered some questions that I know that I've received in the past and just put that out there. And it becomes easier as you go. And that consistency then starts to breed more confidence. And when you have more confidence, it's a lot easier to clearly communicate what your value proposition is, and when people can hear you, and in this case, for those of you who are watching this, you can see and you get the emotions and you get, you know, the hats, the tattoos, like whatever it is, you either like that person or you don't. And you know it right off the bat. And that's really, really what we're looking for on that. So yeah. Um,
So let
you-
me piggyback on what you said about there's nothing more amazing than doing kind of like having your, I don't know how this is a moment where I'm like, how do you say this in English? Um so when you're
say it in Portuguese.
I don't even know. Sometimes I speak Portuguese, Spanish, French, and I'm like sometimes I'm like I don't even know.
Say it in whatever language it makes sense to you. And I'll see if I
Planeta
can
Volta.
interpret.
So I think that the thing here is sometimes the unexpected really brings the best out of you. So I've
Mm,
experienced situations where a host was, ready to go and their guest never showed up. And so we had to improvise on the fly. That will make you such a better host, because you just know that once you do that one show, it's possible you can do it. And your audience, I will say, solo episodes are the best way to deliver your authentic self and value proposition just off the bat, because when you have someone on your show and you're being a guest, more likely than not, people are focused on the guest, not on you. So, a very smart way to combine podcasting is doing a combination of solo episodes with guest podcasts. So, just think about expanding your reach just organically through the guests network. Like, for instance, we are broadcasting from my networks as well, without you spending a dime on advertising. Right? That's so important.
right. Yep. Yep.
So what else do I want to mention? Yes, live or recorded. If you feel like you're overthinking things all the time and you get analysis paralysis, maybe go for live and talk to Jeff. He can give you all the pointers. Am I right?
Hey, at least point you in the right direction and get you going, because this is the kind of stuff that we do that happens.
Um,
There's get a little bit vulnerable. So we're talking ideas, we're talking creativity, we were talking about time and making sure. And it's like, I don't have time is we all have 24 hours in the day. It's whether you choose to make time for this. And I think that's a big thing that keeps people away from doing a live show or doing video, or in this case, doing a podcast. That's a big undertaking, at least from the outside looking in, going, oh, I can't do that. I think that's the biggest thing. So how do we dispel this myth and help more realtors actually start the podcast and get over that? How much time does it take? I think what we're looking at too is it takes time up front. But once you have it set up front, then it becomes easier.
Yeah. And let me just preface this. The two other things that I think are important to consider is, do you want to just start on live streaming, figuring out the kinks? What do you want to do? Just getting it all figured out. And then you actually launch, just play around and then launch the podcast you actually want to launch. That's a great idea. Something else that I feel a lot of people getting hung up on is just I need to make it perfect before I release something.
Yeah. Oh,
So
sure.
oh my gosh, you can, with technology right now, you can practice your first 5 episodes. And then you actually publish. Maybe you don't use any of those 5. Nobody knows that you recorded those. So if you feel like you need to practice a lot, go for it. That's something that you can definitely try. Go on Facebook Lives. A lot of people are using Facebook Live or Instagram Lives, for instance, to start getting that feet wet into podcasting, because it's short, is kind of like more engaging. You don't feel like you're talking to the void. So you can do that, right? So you can turn anything into a podcast. Like, for instance, these live broadcasts can be kind of like cleaned up. So any references to live comments and stuff like that, all of that can be taken out, and you just make something very cohesive, very tight. The reason for this is because why is anyone listening? You need to bring value and be intentional about the value and time that people are putting in. So if they are intentionally looking for your show and listening in, don't waste their time, right? So make it something that is very exciting for them to listen, instead of like, oh man, now we're still waiting for them to go live, we're still waiting for them this to happen. So
Yeah.
consider like all the things that matter to a listener, or the things that you hate in a podcast, and think about, let me not do that. So that's important. And then the first thing that I would have to say, once you have like your idea, you're just okay, I'm ready to go. Maybe you start only by audio, and you buy a microphone. And I will say you can use all of those little microphones that are just a jack that plugs into your microphone. And if you want to start doing, you go around the neighborhood and you talk about the feelings that the neighborhood brings you, or you want to just do what we're doing right now, you should look for a microphone that is a dynamic microphone. So for instance, my space is not soundproof, however I sound good. Why? Because my microphone is built for that. That is one of the biggest mistakes that podcasters do, is invest a ton of money on equipment that does require a lot of soundproofing. And so maybe your musician friend recommends, hey, buy this microphone, buy this soundboard. And that is one of the main reasons why people don't start, is because they get too they were recommended technology that they could not master. So if you're not techie, do not go for something complicated. This microphone that I have here is an Audio Technica, and I can go into the comment section, but I'll say it slowly, is an Audio Technica. So ATR X, I'm gonna look for the number. 2100. So that's US
2100. I'll put it in there.
2100. It is a microphone that plugs directly into your computer. You can also buy a Blue Yeti, and has multiple modes. That microphone, you can record just yourself, you can record more people, you can record 2 people. If you're a musician, you can use that microphone for sound, for kind of like background recording as well. Let's say you are an avid gardener and you want to record your podcast out, and have like the bird sounds and just like all of these beautiful sounds. That's something that microphone does very well. However, you do not need to have a soundproof studio to record in. And so many people spend so much time making the sound good, when you can go ahead and make that work ahead. Research the microphones. They are easy for you to start. So
Okay,
nobody
cool.
will, yeah,
I mean, that's really all you need is really all you need is a microphone to start,
absolutely.
and your voice and the willingness to step out of your comfort zone a little bit and start sharing your spoken word, because you have something to share. Even if you're a brand new agent, like the pet store example, or sports, like whatever your passion is. And this is so big, you guys. Like, I was expecting to meet with Anna, and we're going to go right into just very specifics on podcasting, but we can't do that until we figure out that early part, that authenticity, like who we are. I can tell you after being in real estate for now over 18 years, you don't want to work with every client. You don't want to work with every person out there. And I know that may sound strange to a new agent who's going, hey, if they buy a $500,000 house and I make 15 grand, I don't care as long as they have a pulse and can fog a mirror. I don't care. Trust me, after time, you will. And if you can build a business from the beginning, tying your authenticity to your real estate business with like being creative like this, you will build a lasting business that you absolutely love and it will inspire you to keep doing it. So Anna, now we have 30 ideas. We're excited. We've teased them out a little bit. We've time blocked this in our calendar. We're taking it seriously. We got ourselves a nice mic. What do we do next?
All right. So now it's time to record. You can use software. If you have a Mac, you can use QuickTime Player. If you're trying to just be a bit, I don't know, try to save yourself some time, you can record into Descript. That is a software that you record your audio, and what they'll do afterward is just once the audio is processed, you can edit the audio through a script. So if you do not need a skill set to edit audio, and they have a lot of built-in features that really allow you to just click and they fix your audio. Let's just say you have a little bit of a background noise in the back. That audio will automatically select that and be like, oh, okay, let's fix this. And so you are going to edit your audio. You're going to really get it to a point where you're like excited about. And then also, by the way, just a reminder, I will put some resources on the comment section because my team and I have created some articles on this already and some tutorials. So you can just go ahead and follow those. We created over 50 articles, I think, by now. So it's just literally you type whatever your question is, and everything is for beginners. So you know that you're not going to look at something like, oh my God, what is this? What is this saying? I don't understand. So you're going to record your audio. There are actually some apps like Anchor FM, that is an app and software that is a podcasting hosting platform. So the next step is figuring out where you're putting your audio. How is it going to get distributed? So let's say you stick to audio only. You can use Anchor FM. You can use Sounder FM. You can use Spreaker, Podbean. All of these platforms, honestly, they all cost about the same. Up to a level, it's free, so you can play around, and then it's only $7 a month. So, I mean, it's not that expensive.
Wow,
So,
that's not expensive at all.
no, absolutely affordable. And it's one of the best ways to really get your content out there because, especially audio, most platforms normally in the back end, they'll say, hey, do you want to get your audio on Apple Podcasts? And how about Spotify? So it's literally you go in the back and you just click, yep, do it, yep, do it, yep, do it. So it's not complicated. You do not need to code. However, some people actually want to host their own audio. If you want to do that on your own website, what you need to figure out is the RSS function. So you just got to go a podcast player, or for instance, Wix has this possibility, Squarespace as well, so you can host your podcast on your own website. So I will say it's more complicated, so if anyone is thinking about that, I would probably steer away just because it's more complicated on that end, but it is possible. So that is how you pretty much get yourself out there on audio platforms. Very easy. The one thing that I will say is that getting listeners in is how you want to be clever. So most people do not find podcasts just by, hey, I don't know what to search about, let me go on podcast platforms. Normally it's word of mouth. So you have to remember, where am I going to put my podcast in a way that is recommendable easily, right? Is just the one place, landing page, that it has the links to Apple Podcasts and, Spotify and Castos and all of the other places. So that's my one piece of advice. Make yourself discoverable.
And how would you do that? As a real estate agent, what would be the best way? I mean, are we talking obvious stuff like social media outlets, email lists, things like that?
Yes. So the thing that I want to remind people is that you do not need to be everywhere, right? And
No.
you just pick where you want, one, where is easy for you, and then second, where you know your audience is. And so let's say that is Instagram. A great tool that I use and I recommend anyone to use is Linktree or
Yeah.
Link in Bio. So those are normally landing pages. You can actually just create a website that literally is just a landing page. And what is a landing page? It's just the one page where when people get there, they get all the information about you, links to subscribe everywhere. So those are simple things that you can do. Just get, again, the link in tree and link in bio. It's a platform created by someone else that you just put your links in. So you don't need to code, you don't need to anything. I will suggest adding that to your business card. Imagine meeting someone new and say, hey, by the way, on the back of my card, there's a QR code or a link with the name of my podcast. People are like, oh man, like that's, you're already on the ahead of the game. So if you're just starting, it's a great way to showcase your expertise because people are like, "Oh, I want to know what your podcast is about." So from the get-go, without you doing a lot, you're already creating a great image to these new person that you're just meeting. So that's the one thing that I'll say. And also, just hey, maybe you want to invite them to your podcast, and if they are local people, tell me about what you love about this area. A lot of podcasters I work with, they do that.
Yeah. I mean, like the ideas are just flowing. I mean, I can already like feel them spinning in my head. Hopefully you guys are you're getting value from this as well. If you guys want to book a time with Anna, I'm putting a link up on the screen. I know it's long there. I'll leave that up here for just a second if you want to take a screenshot or with your phone or whatever, or if you're watching on your phone, take a screenshot. Um, Book a time with her. You know, get this podcast stuff going. We're going to continue this interview to get a little bit more in depth on procedure wise and like how to get this stuff out. I think that's like the biggest thing. And, 30 ideas sounds like a lot. But once you get going on those, it becomes a lot easier. So um, there you go. Cool. How, so if I wanted to start a podcast, and I knew I had, I was one topic, would I want to sit down and write this out, sketch this out? Do I want to do it word for word? It's kind of like in video. Do I want to use a teleprompter or not? And when I'm done, if I have 10 minutes of me babbling, but there's really only 5 minutes of content, is that okay?
No.
Okay.
I did a LinkedIn post not that long ago
No to the
about
whole thing, the whole question,
no to the I will say
the last part.
practice. I am a fan of do the prep work ahead. And you mentioned this before as well, Jeff. Do the prep work ahead. Go be in the shower, practice your speech so you iron it out. Because I've done a poll here on LinkedIn, and it just I had I think 4 questions like what are the things that you hate the most about podcasts and
Mm.
or that podcast hosts do. Number 1 was 1000% rambling hosts. So do
What was it?
again,
What was the
would
first one?
yeah, rambling hosts don't do it. People hate that. Just they
Rambling.
just
Gotcha.
rambling, yeah. So if you're listening to podcasts and people are just like getting into their stories and doing all these things, I mean, there's like a little bit of a science to it. You want to do it, but you don't want to do it too much because it alienates the listener. They're like, why am I listening to this again? So make sure that you have a hook in the beginning. You're telling them exactly what they're going to learn, or a teaser. So if you go in and you just make sure that you select something that is like really engaging, and then you start the show, right? So practice on the shower, practice in your walks, and you can do it when you're actually recording the episode. There's 2 ways. If you're really nervous, script the whole thing. I'm actually releasing an article very soon about how to speak slower and how to not mess up as much on your podcast.
Yes, that
And
should be is that the title?
yeah, pretty much.
It should. That's a great title. It's just real. I love it.
Because I mean, the reason why people mess up is because one, you're probably using words that you do not use normally. and you haven't practiced your script, so you have no idea what the word is coming up next. And
Yeah.
here's a tip from being a journalist and reading news on the radio. You want to create a visual space between words, whether you use it as a line break, whether you put dots, where you put space, but just visually make it so your eyes cannot go faster than your brain, right?
Hmm.
So you cannot process that, if that made sense. Just make it so that you are forced to hold space and time. Nobody likes a host that just talks so fast that you're like, what did I just listen to, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's something that people should focus on. So, bullet points and writing the whole thing over. I mean, the intro and the outro are the two things that you need to make sure that you nail, right? Nobody wants to just like, "Woo, let's go on a roller coaster up and down. When are we closing the show? What's happening?" So make sure that those two, you probably script them in the beginning. But for the meat of the show, I'll say keep it on bullet points, because authenticity, like you said before, it's so important. You want to make sure that people are showcasing themselves. And if you're reading, unless you're a really good reader and you've practiced this speech so many times, by the point that you're reading, it's going to come flat. And you don't
Yeah.
want that, right? And for instance, I'm sitting down, but sometimes I stand, just because it works better for your energy, your body being in different positions really affects how you record. Like, never do this. And if people listening, is just like sitting down, hunching, that is going to strain your vocal cords. It's not comfortable, and it's so hard to just speak for a long time.
Yeah, that is so true. I was gonna stand up today, but I realized it was a lot more difficult to go down on the keyboard and move
Oh,
things around and the screens and the chat and all that. So I'm like, yeah, maybe we'll try it next week. But yeah, that's definitely a good point as well. Um,
so do you want to talk about a kind of
well,
branding and promotion?
yeah, but before we move on to that, this was what I was digging deep into my brain.
Hmm.
Um, You touched on structure a little bit. Intro the same, outro the same. It's kind of like for real estate agents, you guys, your consultations and your closes should always be the same. You should never be changing, especially the way you close. Close for a signature, close for anything that you're negotiating. The way you close for is it should be the same every single time. So but what about the structure? I mean, I guess that would really just depend on what the topic was.
Yes.
Let's say, 3 reasons to buy in Denver, Colorado, you know? Um,
Yeah, so you should ideally have at least a couple of closings, and here's why. Your The closing should include a call to action. And if you're talking about, like, let's say, things to do in Colorado, you probably want to engage them into doing something more like, "Hey, contact me if you're buying." Instead of doing that, why don't you engage them for social media? "Hey, if you're on social media, find me at whatever handle you have, and let me know what's your favorite. I'm compiling the next episode. I would love to hear your thoughts." One, you're engaging your community. Two, you're having free content. I mean, come on. You're
yeah.
making them work for you. It's
Yeah,
so great.
nobody wants to talk to you yet. Nobody wants to get on a Zoom with you yet. Not yet. Let's get to know each other a little bit better. And that's, having a podcast is a great way to get your spoken word out there.
Absolutely.
That is so great, and then to be able to repurpose stuff on different platforms, and I don't know anybody who has a podcast. I mean, I know you, and I know people who have, been on podcasts, but I don't have anybody in my close circle that has a podcast that does that, and I don't know a ton of real estate agents who do. So there's like a blue ocean here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually, I'm creating a course for podcasters to help them, and for real estate agents as well, how to turn your podcast into a content making machine, right? And that's something that it's so important that you figure out what you're excited about, because once you're in line with that, it just makes it easier. But sometimes you're going to hit a wall. And what do you do when you hit a wall? And how do you make sure that the content that you're creating is aligned with your brand, but as well as attracting those clients that you want to attract? So, in terms of just recapping a little bit of the call to action that we talked about, so you can have, let's say, about 3 calls to action. So, one, it is the hey, contact me if you loved this episode and you want to know more about like what I do and all of that. Second, engage in social media, right? Tell me about the thing that you love about the area we're living in. Third is to actually subscribe to the podcast or subscribe to my email list where I share more resources. So for instance, you're doing this podcast episode and you can say, hey, I'm actually sharing links of the things that I talked about on my newsletter or on my website. So go and visit and subscribe. You'll receive those in your email box. So you're doing lead generation on that. You're getting their email. You're connecting with them. You're building your you're just building your I'm missing the word. What is the word that
Authority,
they
validity.
yeah, that, but also the oh my goodness, your email list. You're growing your email list, and then when you're looking for leads, and it just happens that at some point you had a great season, and then suddenly it's going down. You're like, I don't want to invest in new leads. You can dip into your email list for that podcast that you've been creating. Be like, hey, I'm I'm just letting you know that there's this amazing house, and I think you'll be perfect for it. Something like that. You can re-engage with your community because you've built trust through time and you've been there top of mind all the time. They're like, oh yeah, that guy that shares awesome content, or that gal that shares great content. Let me
Yeah,
reach out.
that's the key right there. That is the key right there. So why podcast versus video?
All right. I will say not one or the other. I would say it's important to be on audio for sure. You can repurpose video into audio. It's just enabling those listeners who are in the car, who are dropping their kids off, who are running around the neighborhood and like, oh man, like I really love this house, but I don't know any real estate agents, and they're listening to you and they really vibe with you. Like, no, let me talk about that person. So I will say that audio is a great way to just cover your bases and make sure that audio is there. And then video is awesome because they get to see you. Not everyone gets comfortable on video, and audio can be a kind of like a stepping stone to getting your videos out there. Or maybe you just say, okay, I'll never go into video because I do Instagram lives and I'm on Instagram all the time, for instance, right? So one does not I wouldn't say one is not better than the other. There's benefits to both. Depends what you want your brand to be. But also at the same time, make sure that your audio from your video works on audio only platforms. So make sure your audio is very good quality because you do not have the video to read lips, for instance. If the audio is choppy, nobody's going to listen through that. So consider the experience that the listener is going to have. So if anything, make sure that your audio sounds amazing, and it's not
Yeah.
hard. It just needs to be clear. So that is my tip. Also, if you are doing if you don't like writing blogs, a podcast is great because you're going to have to write some show notes to go with it, right? And when there's platforms like otter.ai, Descript I mentioned before, those two platforms provide you already with a transcript, so you can just edit it out and make something super interesting. You do not have to just think about, oh, what do I write about right now? You already recorded a podcast about that. So make sure that you put your content on your website to generate organic traffic.
Yep.
And let me just add a little bit on this. 2 years ago, I started already creating all of the articles I was mentioning. We get about 2,000 people on our website organically every single month because just of these articles that we created 2 years ago. All right.
Yeah.
It is
Yep.
possible. Our email list grows by 14 people a week just because we have set all of that content beforehand. Benefits of podcasting, great long term, but also it's cumulative. So the longer you have your audio there, the more downloads you have, and also the more authority Google has on it. So if a podcast is older, Google's going to be like, I like this stuff. It has some weight on it. And then obviously if you release a new episode, it's going to take time for Google to look into that content and be like, do I want to share these first? No, let's look into these older episodes. So start today so that a year from today, 2 years from today, 6 months from today, you're way ahead than someone who may not release any type of content online.
Wow, that's so much. As soon as you talked about the template, I put your template up in the chat or in the on the screen. This will also be down in the description, so you guys can go get a free template. We've talked about coming up with your ideas and blocking time to do your podcast and to sit down and really sketch things out, whether it's bullet point or long form. This is a template that's going to help you get to those next steps and put those things together. Um, Good stuff. Gosh, Anna, we could just continue to I'm learning so much. And I know I could continue to ask questions about, how to specifically do things. Um, what do you want to we have a few minutes left. What do you want to really impress upon our audience of real estate agents who people are thinking about getting their license, new agents who want to separate themselves from the rest by starting a podcast? What do you want to really impress upon them the most and inspire people to actually go out and do it? Because that's where the rubber meets the road, is actually doing it.
Yes. So I will say that just like anything else, you are unique and you bring something new to the table. So just like any other profession, you're just gonna you're gonna attract the people. You're gonna magnetize the people that love you for you who you are, and that's the same thing for podcasting, right? And I think that when you start, the scary thing is starting. And so you will meet amazing people through your podcast. You're going to touch so many people. Your podcasts, once they are there, you're going to sleep and you're going to receive a message and like, hey, I listened to your podcast. I loved it. And there's something else that I want to share. One of my clients, she is not a realtor, but this goes the same thing. She is a senior placement expert, and so she does not have thousands of downloads per episode. However, she already hired 4 people because her business grew. She really mastered her authenticity and her expertise on the show in a way that she now gets calls from San Francisco when she's based here in Dallas. And she's like, oh my God, these people called me, they listened to my show, and they're like, oh, you really sound like you on your podcast. And she's like, yeah, because that's me. Right. So
Yeah,
she
right.
really grew her business with some hundred per episode, downloads per episode. So you do not need the thousands of numbers to get a real impact and really turn your business around. So think about just that, right? It is about the quality and the effort and consistency. Your audience, your community will notice. And you will never have an idea of the impact that you're having just because there's so many people who are listening but don't reach out, but they're still listening. So just time will tell, and time will help you get to the point that you will be like, I'm super confident, I love doing this podcast. So just start, things will fall in place.
Yeah, just start. We all have a message to share. We all have our secret weapons. We all have our talents, but we don't think that we do. So getting out of our comfort zone and just getting started is what will slowly pull us out of that, allow us to establish who our true authentic selves are, and then it just becomes easier and easier. And we're good at it because we enjoy doing it. And that's what really pulls everything together. So, getting out there, starting a podcast, getting your spoken word out there as more and more people continue to listen to podcasts. I mean, it's something like 45% of the population listens to at least one podcast.
Yeah.
Like it's huge. It's continuing to grow. It's super unique. Like I said, I don't know too many real estate agents that have their own podcast. Um, Super, super cool.
And let's just say that the advertising industry spent billions last year on podcast advertisement. So just to say that if the big guys are investing in podcasting, it means that they know it's converting. It's not like playing in radio or TV or putting an ad out there just anywhere on the newspaper. We're like, or putting flyers out there, right? When you engage with a podcast, you know that the person is there because they want to listen to it. They just didn't stumble on it. So that's my tip. The big guys are investing in podcasts. You should too.
Yeah, follow the money, right? So, all right, this is great, Anna. We are going to wrap things up here. I know I've shared this graphic with you. I know I've mentioned we will be putting all of these links, everything that we've shared as far as resources and downloads and information down in the comment section. So don't forget to go through and look down there for all this awesome stuff that we're going to share. Anna, people can go to the podcastspace.com and get in touch with you there.
Absolutely. Yes. Me or my team will get back to you and set up a time if you want to talk podcasting. Because again, you have an idea inside of you. You just need kind of like the guidance to get there. And then you will, once it hits you, you'll be so excited that you're like, of course, this is the perfect podcast idea for me. So absolutely get in touch.
Yes, we all need that, and that's why you need a real estate coach too. Come on,
Yeah.
guys. It's hard to do this stuff all by yourself. You need accountability. You need some inspiration to actually get out there and do some of these things, right? So, well, great. You guys, thank you so much, Anna, for being here. This was awesome. We could continue to talk. We'll have to do this again at some point in the future when my
Anytime.
podcast is up and rocking and rolling.
Yes,
That
absolutely.
It'll be cool to come full circle on this, and, I appreciate your time. This was a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun. You're a great host. Thank you for having me. I appreciate
Yes,
it.
of course, and for all of my viewers and listeners out there, thank you so much for listening and watching another episode of Jeff Ruby Live, where I help real estate agents launch, build, and scale successful businesses by bringing in entrepreneurs, business owners who have shown levels of success, and to share their models, systems, strategies, tactics, and tools, and how you as a real estate agent can use those to build your business. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would love it if you did, because I'm creating videos specifically for you to help you do all of those things that I just launched, and bringing in great guests like Anna to help you as well. All you have to do is go to Jeff Ruby on youtube.com. Pretty simple. And until next time, everybody, see ya.